Welcome to the Alien Probe Podcast. It is Saturday, July 29th, 2023. I'm Doug. We have MUFON Matt and a special guest today, author and experiencer, Ella LeBain. Ella,
Woo!
welcome.
Hello.
Ah, yeah. Can we all do it?
Yes.
That's right. That's where it all started for me.
Peace and prosperity, or what was it?
Yeah. Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Oh,
That's
you're
good.
kicked out of the Star
That's
Trek
right. I'm
Club.
out to the back of the ship.
What's going on today, Ella? You're down. Are you in Denver, or where are you at over there?
Yes, I'm north of Denver, Westminster, in between Boulder and Denver.
Nice.
Very nice. How's the weather today?
It's lovely at the moment. The sun is shining, but give it a few hours and you'll hear some rumbling.
Thunder.
Where?
Nice.
Oh, that'd be awesome. We'll have to explain the video of you. It looks like you're in heaven. It looks like you're in
Yes.
kind of heaven, a heavenly, which probably is very, probably.
Guiding light, just kind of.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, it's a skylight, and this is where my computer is, but it'll change in a few minutes.
We don't want it to change.
Yeah, I
like
like it. Right.
It's
But we're not going to be able to see your face, though. So
Right.
I mean, we can see
Oh,
it, but
that's okay. It covers up my wrinkles.
So let's hear about, you're an author. Let's go ahead and can we start about talking about your books?
Sure. Yes.
The series?
On the Cosmic Zoo. It's a nonfiction book series. And my last book, which is the book 5, is called The Heavens. So I am putting out a new edition of the original book, book 1, Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo, and it'll be available after August 2nd. So I'm very excited about this.
Very cool.
I kind of feel like Taylor Swift because
Ah,
this book, you know how like she had a whole legal battle
Yes.
to get her back, and then she just rebranded it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing with book 1.
Nice.
So I went through 3 different publishers. Long story. I mean,
Right.
the book is all about the aliens.
Right.
So I had so many spiritual battles over that material. It took me 17 years to get published, and then when I got published, it was just like one thing after another.
wow.
And I actually include a piece in there about this history, what happened to the book, because I'm republishing it as a 4th edition, and it's an expanded 4th edition. So I've added like 15 chapters to it because I'm bringing my readers up to speed on the whole disclosure era that we're living in.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting.
It is. Yeah. It is very exciting. I just did earlier. I did another episode with a gentleman. We talked all about it. Yeah. So where's it go? Where do you think that's going to go? Are we going to get to see the extraterrestrials and the flying saucers? Are we going to do? Is it finally going to happen, Ella?
NHIs.
Well,
Non-human entity.
Well, eventually, yes, it's leading up to, this is all, the past is prologue. Let's just start with that. So this is all leading up to the end time prophecies being fulfilled. They are being fulfilled. This is part of the fulfillment. But what we're in here in America is drip, drip disclosure.
Right.
So what we just had this past week was a big fat piece, but it's not the whole enchilada. Okay. So the next piece to come and, will be even more. And then there'll be even more whistleblowers because they've opened up the door
Yep.
to allow the whistleblowers to come forward in a safe way so that their lives, their jobs are not threatened. Okay, well, maybe their jobs, after they start revealing government secrets, they can't actually hold those positions anymore. But that doesn't mean that they can't talk and they can't do other things, which is what we're seeing. So it's a wonderful thing, but it's not over yet, so this is going to go on in a drip drip fashion, and in a way, it's sort of part of a grand design to allow the public to digest one piece at a time and get used to this, okay, and start to accept what or research or understand what's going on. If I would like to go back to December of 2020, because this was a pivotal moment in UFO disclosure history. Okay.
Okay.
And this doesn't include America. This is about Israel and America. So if you remember, the retired octogenarian space chief, Chaim Eshed, who was the top guy in the Israeli space program, national security, the whole 9 yards. He comes out as an octogenarian, talks to the equivalent of like the New York Times in Israel, the Yedidot Achronot, and he starts telling them that, yeah, we've had contact with the Galactic Federation. That's what he called it.
Yep.
Okay. And we, meaning America and Israel, and we're working with them, and President Trump knows all about it. But the Galactic Federation has told us that they do not feel that the public is ready to understand, to accept, or to learn what's going on. So when the public is ready, then they'll learn more. And that was the long and short of his statement. And that was just amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I felt vindicated because my first book, Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo, is about who the Galactic Federation is.
Right.
So I have like a chart in the book, and it's called the Cosmic Drama Chart. And it basically, I started this in the 90s. Okay. I was living in Indian Rocks Beach in Florida, and I was doing these classes weekly at this, local metaphysical bookstore called ET's Aliens or Angels. Those were my classes, and so the book became, I've been putting the book together for like 17 years from the classes, and it was all about discerning who these beings are, who they were based on our history, because that's another piece, is the past is prologue. We have to go into the past to understand the present and the future, because history repeats itself.
Yeah.
So and as soon as I mention the Bible, everybody goes apoplectic because they're like, I don't do religion, I'm a this, I'm a that. And it's like, we have to be able to separate the record, the historical record, from all the religions that got spawned from the Bible.
Right.
Okay, the Bible is not just a religious book. Okay, it is a historical record of extraterrestrial interventions, interactions with humans, and mind you, I come from a Jewish background, so I do not agree with everything that the Christians say, because they're missing half the story.
Right.
Hence the history. The Church of Rome deleted 77 Jewish texts, Jewish books out of the Bible, because it didn't fit their narrative or their political agenda.
Right.
And back in ancient Rome, politics and religion were one. So they had an agenda, and so they edited the Bible according to their agenda. And a lot of it has to do with anti-Semitism, replacement theology, and a rebellion against this Jewish, the God of the Jews, the God of Israel. And it goes way back into ancient Samaria, because the Sumerian tale was basically continued in the book of Genesis. So I had the privilege of meeting and interviewing and studying with Zecharia Sitchin. And he was a big influence in my life. I studied in Israel. They sent me there to get an education, and I came back with Yeshua. Okay. So that's kind of like a little controversial, especially for Jews, because they, you can't mention the name Jesus. Everybody goes nuts. And so I had all these questions. why, how, this, that. And he was pretty relentless with me through my life. Not relentless, that's not the right word. Like um consistent
Right.
and faithful, because I was a lost soul. Okay, I was orphaned at a very young age. I didn't have any brothers and sisters. I didn't have a family, and I was searching out there, and the aliens got to me, and I was like, well, who is God? And everything I've written about are questions that I've had. So I'm just sharing my research and what I've figured out and what I've pieced together. And it is kind of like a string of pearls, like you have to piece these things together to get the whole picture.
Right.
And the past, the biblical, and I include in my book series the exo-biblical books, the ones that got rejected. I'm always interested in that. Why are they rejecting this? What is in there that they don't want us to know? And what I found out was this whole cosmic drama that happened. Now, parts of it, to be fair, are in the Book of Genesis. Okay, so when the creation of the Nephilim, when the giants walked the earth, but the whole drama between the Lord, who we call Satan, Lucifer. I call him Lucifer slash Satan, just to be clear, because nobody really knows his original name, although he's kind of connected to Marduk, okay, from the Sumerian tale, who
Right.
was the Lord of Nibiru and the Lord of Mars. That's why they named it Mars after him, Marduk. And he's this character in the ancient texts that was looking to control the planets. Okay, so what we have going on right now as we speak today is we have this system, this ancient Nemesis Nibiru system that is now arrived. It is here. It is intersecting in our solar system. And that is the reason for the climate change and the global warming and anything else you want to call it. We're in the middle of a pole shift, okay, which has happened before. Like I said, the past is prologue. And in the book of Isaiah, it talks about this timeline at the end of this age, that the Lord is going to turn the earth upside down, which is biblical vernacular for pole shift.
Yeah.
And we're already seeing that. We've seen that the North Magnetic Pole has shifted 40 degrees from, it used to be in the Canadian Arctic, and now it's in Siberia.
Right.
So we know and we can feel it. And I don't think there's anyone on earth that is not seeing these changes, whether it's the weather, the animals, the pilot whales, committing mass suicide, beaching themselves. I mean, it's very kind of disturbing what's happening.
Right.
But this is all part of this timeline, this end time prophecy that is scheduled and appointed to happen at the end of this processional age. So, like for instance, when Yeshua said he's coming back at the end of the age, what was he talking about? Well, in the astrological ages, they call them the processions. They last approximately 2,160 years. Okay, so I don't make any sort of date predictions, like count like this day. I never do that, because everyone who does that is always wrong. And the reason for that is because they've messed with the calendars. Okay, I have a chapter in my fifth book called Calendar Shenanigans, and every single calendar has somehow been corrupted or messed with. I mean, even the Jewish calendar, which we follow, and they claim, because they have the most accurate in terms of astronomy. Like it's not just solar; it's solar and lunar. It's lunar and solar, whereas the Arabic is just lunar, and then of course the Gregorian is the Roman calendar, which makes absolutely no astronomical sense whatsoever, and that's the calendar that we all live on. So all of this comes, it's like a confluence of stuff, plus the fact that they've manipulated the timeline, okay, through time travel, through CERN, through all these things. So we can't go by a calendar date, okay? But we can look at the prophetic calendar, okay, and see, well, where are we at with that? And that's something I can speak on, because what's next to come, the next shoe to drop, so to speak.
Interesting.
Question. So would the Book of Enoch be one of the books that kind of was shunned from, the regular, I guess you could say,
Yes.
Bible?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Great question. Enoch, the first and second books of Adam and Eve.
Right.
I recommend everybody to go find them, because if only those books were included in the Bible, we would have a whole different perspective, understanding about the spiritual warfare that every single one of us faces every day,
Right.
you know. And Philo said, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle, and the ancients understood that,
Right.
so this isn't necessarily about religion. This is about the conflict between these ancient beings that have established themselves on earth as gods.
Right.
Okay, that's not to say that they aren't gods in their own right. Okay, I'm not trying to diminish their divinities or their deities, but let's unpack that. Okay, it's a title. Okay,
Right.
God is a title. The word Lord is a title. It's like king or president.
Right.
Okay, so what I found when I went into the Hebrew Bible was it doesn't match what is in the English Bible, because when they translated the English Bible, they didn't write the names of these ancient gods
Right.
that had this whole drama.
Right.
So it's a cast of characters of gods competing with one another over us, over the planet,
Right.
or how we're going to think, how we're going to live, how we're going to be. And this is evident in the ancient Hebrew, okay, which is where Sitchin comes in,
Right.
because he taught that, like, for instance, the word Elohim, okay, which is a Hebrew word. It's plural. It means gods with an S at the end. So every time that word shows up in the Hebrew Bible, the English Bible translates it as God, God, without the S. That changes the
So,
story, don't you
Yeah,
think?
exactly. Exactly. Right. Right.
slightly.
Yeah.
And and then so you only see two words that the English Bible shows, and that's Lord and God.
Right.
So every time the word Lord shows up, it's actually covering up the ancient name of the Father,
Right.
okay, which they felt was, oh, you can't say that name, it's too holy to say. But that's actually false. I
Yeah.
proved that in my second book, Who is God? 35 different commandments commanding the people to say his name, call on his name, sing his name, praise his name, thank his name, memorialize his name,
Right.
all the way down the line.
Right.
And that the high priests of Israel were cursed for not esteeming his name. So they covered that up. Okay. And by the way, if anyone's asking what is his name and how is it pronounced, it's Yahuwah.
Right.
Okay, that's the ancient Paleo Hebrew. Then the Masoretic Jews, when they were being held captive in Babylon for 70 years, and they had to listen to the Enuma Elish every day, you know, they rewrote the Old Testament, because the ancient Aramaic didn't have any vowels, and the Hebrew vowels are little dots and dashes.
Right.
So they went in and they rewrote the entire Torah with the dots and the dashes, with they call them nikudot, little vowels, which basically, helps you to read and say, well, how certain things are pronounced. Yet they knew, and this was something they plotted, and they succeeded. Okay, they felt like it was on them to protect the sacred name of the Lord and not let the Gentiles invoke it and use it in vain and all that. These were battles of the past.
Right.
Went in and they took the nikudote, the vowels from the word Adonai, which means Lord, or Elohim, which means gods, and they transposed it over the name of the Lord, the Father, Yahuwah, which they call the Tetragrammaton, the Yud Hey Uhe,
Right.
and then they so when the Gentiles read it, they wouldn't read it right. So
Oh,
it became a
you,
different
you hit it.
pronunciation, which created a whole different spirit.
Right.
Like there's no J in the Hebrew
Yeah.
language. There's no sound for the J sound.
Right.
And that's something I found that in the English language they actually invented it like in the early 1700s. The very first King James Bible, which was published in 1611,
Right.
didn't even have the name Jesus in it.
Oh wow. That's
So
wild.
that they added the letter J later. So they created this kind of false god Jehovah,
Right.
okay, and Yahweh, which is just a different pronunciation from Yahuwah. And I was like, well, who is using the correct pronunciation? And I went in and I started researching, and I found that lo and behold, the Native American Cherokee tribes, which have history of coming from ancient Israel. They were part of the lost tribes
Right.
that ended up here, continued through oral tradition to use that name for the Great Spirit.
Right.
And I was fascinated by that. And then it sort of spawned a fourth book called Covenants, my fourth book, which basically traces where the lost tribes of Israel ended up and how there's evidence of them all over the world, in Japan, in Afghanistan, in Africa, all through Europe, even in parts of China, because they went in all directions, during the diaspora. So all this comes back together to the end time prophecy, which talks about, I mean, the quintessential, the final big piece of this
Right.
is this phantasmagorical mothership that comes out of the heavens, which is called the New Jerusalem, or the holy city, the heavenly city, the bride of Christ, comes out of the heavens, lands on a scorched earth after the Armageddon, the World War III. There's a lot of pieces that still have to come into play here, and basically lifts the planet up into this higher dimensional, and creates heaven on earth.
Right.
And the Lord sits in the middle of it with this iron rod and rules all the nations. And we have this 1,000 years of peace and brotherhood and sisterhood and understanding. And really, when that happens, is the age of Aquarius in the processional ages. So we are finishing up. We are at the end of the age of Pisces.
Right. Nice.
Wow, that's amazing.
And a lot of people think we're in Aquarius because of all the technology and all the space stuff, and in many regards we're transitioning into it.
Right.
So almost like if you take I like to use the analogy of like the sunrise in the mornings, and how like it takes an hour for you to see the actual sun come above the horizon,
Right.
but everything gets light. You see dawn. Dawn is like about an hour, and that's where we're at. Just like the song.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, real quick, a personal question. Do you know who your family is, your parents, or from when you were younger, or you abandoned,
Oh, yes. Yes, my biological mother died when I was 6. And then my father remarried, a Jewish divorcee. I ended up with 3 stepsisters. I was like a real life Cinderella kind of thing. Yeah.
Did you have to do all the cleaning?
Well,
You still
I
have the
was the bottom
slippers?
yeah, I was the bottom of the totem pole, so
Wow.
I took a lot of abuse from them, and one of them tried to murder me,
Oh my
and
gosh.
yeah,
Wow.
so I ran away, and I had
Good
a
for
rough
you.
childhood,
I'm
and I
sorry to
ended
hear
up
that.
He sent me to Israel to a boarding school to get an education.
Right.
So I've pretty much been on my own since I was 15.
Yeah, I didn't. Reason I asked, I didn't know if you were how you knew you were Jewish. So that obviously your family was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, blood, DNA. My father was an Orthodox Jew. My mother was Italian Catholic. So, and I write all about this in my books because racism is one of the biggest social issues, problems we
Right.
have on the planet. And that ties right into the alien reveal.
Right.
Because my whole question to everyone is how are you going to accept ET when you can't even accept each other?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. That's a great question.
Yeah, that is. Very good question.
Yeah, I'm adopted, so I didn't know, and I
Oh,
did DNA.
you've
We
chosen.
we got to
The
tell my story, right?
Right.
Because I'm the
adopted
guest.
children are
You
chosen.
know, but I did Ancestry and 23andMe, and I ended up finding um, my my mother and father have passed, but I found out that I was my 50%. Was it Ashkenazi Jewish?
Hey,
You
oh,
know, but I'm only half Jewish, so that's why I'm not really good with money. You know, so that's what I'm thinking.
I can relate to that.
So I don't know. It's but I'm a little perplexed about because now out here, I don't know if this is happening across the U.S. Matt, I don't know if you've heard this about people are striking out against the Jewish people.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah.
What is the deal with that? I don't. I thought we were over that. Well, of course, I thought we were over a lot of things, but why has
I'm
this come up?
glad you brought that up because that is a huge piece right now in the end time prophecy. So the world wars, World War One, World War Two, are all connected. God knows we have tons of movies and films and all kinds of
Right.
information to connect those dots. So we can say that World War Three will also follow suit. So World War Three, according to the biblical prophecy, is going to be all these nations of the world go against Israel. Okay. And we've already seen the seeds of this happening. So
Right.
let's go back to the Obama administration. So during the time when Obama was president, he decreed through executive order that no one who was born, Americans who were born in Jerusalem, Israel, could no longer have a birth certificate that said that they were born in Jerusalem, comma, Israel. Instead, it can only say Jerusalem without a country.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
so all these lawsuits came up as a result of that, and that was very unfair because what he was trying to do was go back to the 1967 borders before Israel won fair and square the Jerusalem back. Okay, as not only that it was belonged to the state of Israel, but it was the capital of the state of Israel. It's almost like saying, "Hey, you can't have Washington D.C. It
Right.
doesn't belong to America."
Right.
Okay, so he was trying to delegitimize Israel, and so this is a thing, okay, that is going through the world through the United Nations because the United Nations with the under the Balfour Declaration were part of the they were the parties that made that decision that voted on having Jews go to the ancient land of Israel as a safe place to get out of Europe, to get away from the anti Semitism. And then 1 year later, well, actually, it wasn't, it was like 6 months later, they did it in
Yeah.
November of 1947, May 14th, 1948, Israel became a sovereign state. Okay, so they are trying to undo that. Okay, so as they're undoing that, out comes all this, you know, the spewing of this ancient anti-Semitic rhetoric, all these anti-Semitic tropes that are there's nothing new under the sun. This has been going on for centuries. Okay, so that in answer to what you're saying, Doug, that's what's going on here in America. So it's like,
Right.
where do they get it? How can they make people go back to thinking that? They teach it at university levels.
Wow.
So it started in Berkeley, California. It's in all these universities, taught by professors. This twisted, whole trope about, oh, they're not really Jewish. They're like they say about the Ashkenazis that they're, Khazarians and they're not true Jews. Well, I
Oh,
too
alien.
had a,
Half alien.
yeah, half alien. And there you go. That's where I'm going with
Hmm.
this. Is that why? And this is what I questioned growing up. Why do people hate the Jews so
Yeah,
much?
I don't get it. But
I
I
don't get
mean,
it. They've made all these contributions to society. The Hall of Fame is full of Jews, scientists, and look at how they won World War II. This, to me, was, when I saw the movie Oppenheimer, which
I want to see. Yeah, I
I
haven't
haven't
seen it
seen
yet,
it
but
either.
I'm going to.
it's very good.
Definitely.
So the one piece that really spoke to me was it, and I didn't know this, like this was a piece of history. I just didn't. I missed this. Was that Robert Oppenheimer, who was American. He was American Jew, but he was influenced by Europe because he was educated in Europe. So it was his idea, and this is like a jujitsu move. Okay,
I like it.
it was his idea to use anti-Semitism against Hitler.
uh,
Okay, he twisted it back on him because Hitler and what was going on then. So Hitler was obsessed with this Aryan race. Who was this Aryan race? These blonde, blue-eyed Nordic
Nordic,
aliens
yeah, I was
yeah.
gonna say.
came out of the inside of the earth
Yeah,
that he wanted to impress. And I have this in my
Antarctica.
fourth book. This is about World War II, what happened with the camps, and how the Vatican had their own death camps in Poland, and how these the Pope was working with Hitler to get rid of their undesirables through
Yeah.
these death camps. That was like a way of flushing people out. Okay, but Hitler was obsessed not only with the occult, he was obsessed with these aliens, and the information that I received, I can't confirm or deny, but I've included it in my book for those who are interested, was that he was given alien technology from inside the earth, and he really wanted to impress them. Okay, so this was all on the tails of Admiral Byrd.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know that
Oh
story,
Yep.
yeah.
and he accidentally ended up in the hole in the north, and then the American military
Yeah.
gave him a to go to Antarctica,
Yep.
and he wrote all this stuff in a diary, and it was out there. It was published by National Geographic
Right.
magazine. And then the United States government went and bought up every single copy because they didn't want the public to know this. Okay,
Oh wow.
so
I
when
didn't
you
know
start
that.
I
You know.
did. I've read that. Yeah.
Wow. It's
so when
amazing.
you start piecing all this together, it's like, what are they covering up? Why don't they want us to know this? What the heck happened? And why did they call New Schwabia land in our Antarctica? The Nazis ended up there
Yeah.
building this secret space
Base.
program,
Yeah.
which the Allies, America and Russia, took over. Okay, which was the whole point of the Cold War. So we have to connect these dots to where we're at today.
Right.
Okay, and why they're against this particular race of people, and being Jewish is not just a religion; it's a race.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a genetic heritage. So I have concluded that because of the diaspora, because of the fact that 10 lost tribes ended up all over the planet, that it was in somehow God's will to spread this extraterrestrial seed all around so that it levels the playing field. And so, in my new version of Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo, the fourth edition that's coming out next week,
Right.
I am including some of this information about the reptilian serpent DNA race. So one of the anti-Semitic tropes, ancient, is that, oh, the Jews are serpents. Okay, right? Have we heard that? And it's like, wait a second. Everybody has a reptilian brain.
Right.
Every
Yeah.
human, earth human that is walking the face of this earth today has the reptile. It's called the medulla oblongata,
Most of the
right?
people I work with, yeah.
Right? Well, some people have it more developed than others.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
More
But
advanced.
Yeah.
and this is what everybody took away from Sitchin's material, was that the Anunnaki created humankind.
Right.
So one of the things that I do in my book is I honor Sitchin. I have 2 chapters in book 5 that is all about him and the interviews and all of that. But there was a misunderstanding that somehow, because it's impossible for them to have given to be the creditors of the creator of humans, because the woman was on the earth at the time. They used the woman to incubate this new race of beings. Hence, back to present time with the alien hybridization program,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically what they're doing. I mean, I was part of this, and there's multiple abduction programs. They're not all one. Okay, I just want to put that out there.
Okay.
So the alien hybridization program is about creating this other race of human with alien DNA that may even take over us, like the ultimate replacement theology.
Yeah.
Okay, so or create a spacefaring race, or AI controlled humans. There's a lot of nefarious stuff going on there. So I'll just leave it at that. But why were they so threatened by Jewish DNA that they wanted to not just wipe everyone out, but wipe everyone out that had grandfathers and great grandfathers
Right.
that
Yeah.
like 1/8, and Hitler was 1/4 Jewish.
Yeah.
So bizarre about the whole thing. So this ancient racism against this DNA, to me, comes from this rebellion, this old rebellion, first and second galactic wars that happened against the Creator God.
Right.
Okay, so the Creator God put these groupings on the planet. And the reason why we have the word Jew is because it comes from the tribe of Judah. Yahuda, really, in Hebrew. Yahudim is Jews in Hebrew.
Right.
So they were very threatened by this group because the Lord wanted to set them apart from these other groupings. So back to Sitchin. So the Anunnaki did not create humankind because the woman was on the earth already. So what they did was they genetically manipulated. Okay,
Okay.
and this is the point of my book series. The end of book 1 concludes this, that a lot of people think that the aliens have intervened along our uh, timeline, and that's true. They have, to help us to evolve or advance, and I'm not denying that. However, it started at this fall.
Right.
Okay, so that goes back to Adam and Eve, the Evademic race, and that was after the first flood. So the Bible starts out, Genesis 1:1, after the first flood.
Blood.
And that,
Okay.
and that was the Spirit hovers over the waters of the earth. And that was after Atlantis and Lemuria sunk. Okay. And then they started all over again. And then he put the Evademic race on the planet, and the ancient king of the earth, who I call Lucifer, Satan, or Marduk, if you want, okay, didn't die. He wasn't, like, when all these galactic wars happened, some of them were, according to the Book of Enoch, they were imprisoned. Okay,
Right.
and one of them, like, some of them are imprisoned in the fifth heaven, so it's like a place where nobody can go. Some of them imprisoned inside the earth in the abyss, and the rest of them did, either they perished through the floods, and the ones who didn't ended up going inside the earth in these caves, in these caverns. The earth is caverned out.
Yeah.
So this is why history keeps repeating itself, and so Lucifer, the Bible says that he is the god of this world. Okay, he is the prince of the powers of the air. And this is evidence in the interaction he had with Yeshua when he tempted and tested him, and he had the authority to give him all these kingdoms and said, well, if you bow down and worship me, I'll give you all the kingdoms of the earth.
Right.
And Yeshua never once questioned his authority to do that, because he knew who he was. But he came to set the captives free. And who are the captives? That would be us.
Right.
So it all started in the fall. So when we talk about the fall, people think immediately all the curses that were doled out, and that's a part of it. But what I'm saying it was a genetic manipulation of human beings that were made in the image and likeness of the gods.
Right.
And that is what the Genesis
The
the
first.
scripture says. It's the whole entire scripture is in its plurality.
Right.
Let us make man in our image according to our likeness.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
make them male and female equal. So, and that's the Elohim.
Mm.
So these beings have been at war with this other group, which I call the Draconian kingdom, or AKA Satan's kingdom. And they
Right.
live inside the earth, but they're not just limited to earth. They're on the moon, they're on Mars, they're in this solar system. And that and they are the ones causing all of this. They're the rebels. And the word Satan is a Hebrew word that just means adversary or rebel. So when Christians talk about Satan, they kind of think it's one being, but it's a group of beings.
Right.
And what they've been trying to do is corrupt the image and likeness of God in humans. So, like if you read the beginning of Genesis, before the Noah's flood, all these people lived to be like 900. Methuselah lived to be 960 years old. How is that possible? I mean, if we take good care of ourselves, we're lucky to live 120,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that's based on your telomeres.
Yeah, we won't be in very good shape either.
Yeah, I mean, and really, who wants to be that?
Wait,
I mean,
can I
you know,
can I ask
Right.
ask a question real quick? What do you think happens when you die? Our show won't be long enough for us to get to that part, so I want to get right to it.
Oh, we have 2 minutes left.
I've
Well,
only got an hour, but I want to know. I want to get to that. I want to get your outlook on that, or what you've discovered.
Well, I did have a near-death experience in 2010, so I can tell you that there is a heaven and a hell, and it's evidenced in the biblical scriptures. In the Old Testament, there's 3 levels. There's hell. There's like 3 different types of hell, and there's also heaven. There's and it's all inside the earth. So when people think, oh, they went to heaven, they became a star in the sky. No, when people die and they go to heaven, they go to the good place, or the Bible calls it Abraham's bosom, or paradise. Yeshua called it paradise. And what happened when he died on the cross? He went inside the belly of the earth and he preached to the spirits of the dead. And why don't they make movies about this stuff? I don't
Yeah.
know. Every
Yeah.
year you see all the Easter films and all this. Nobody makes a movie about this piece of scripture where he goes into the belly of the earth and he talks to these dead spirits and he preaches to them and he saves them out of the belly of the earth. And when the Bible says that when he rose from the dead, they did too. It says that all these graves opened up in Jerusalem and all these people walked out of it.
Oh, wow.
Never see that in any movies. And that, to me, that's like exciting stuff, right?
Right.
Resurrections, okay?
Right.
Very cool. It's a good
So,
story.
yeah, I mean, that's the best part of the story is the resurrection, because if he wasn't resurrected, nobody would be believing in him. He'd just be any other dead guy.
Right. True. Very true.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, yeah, sorry to interrupt. I was just kind of
Oh, it's okay.
curious. I was curious about your outlook on that, because
Yes.
so
And
many.
I think it all depends on who you pledge allegiance to.
Yeah.
People, and religious people want to
Yeah.
make it very complicated, but it really isn't. It's very, very simple. You either believe that he came to save us from the God, from the matrix, from the bondages, from the being captive in this world. Okay, there are worse things than death. Okay, so people suffer a lot on this planet, and this is like a farming. This is one of the conclusions I make in my first book, fourth, which you'll see,
Yeah.
the fourth edition, is that this is planet Earth has become like a human farm for these draconian reptilian beings who feed off of us. Okay, and Monroe called it loosh. Okay, which is emotional energy, soul energy, memories. So how they get us to give it up is it's Machiavellian. They create the divide and conquer stuff, and they get everybody pitted against each other. Racism is like number one. Okay, and then hating someone's religion, or the gender divide. We don't like women anymore, or
Misogyny.
we don't like men anymore, or everyone's toxic, and they want to pit everyone against each other.
Right.
Okay, and what
Yeah.
it does is it creates loosh, because people get upset, they get offended, they get,
Yeah.
I mean, this is the battle we face every day. Okay, so that's why Yeshua said, I've come to set the captives free. Free from who? Free from this draconian kingdom that has ruled this planet. And when he returns, he according to the prophecy, it becomes his world again. Okay, so he takes it back and he raises it to heaven. So earth, it's like people don't go to heaven, heaven is coming to earth.
Right.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so when people think, oh well, they're going to die and they're going to go up in the air, the Bible has all these scriptures about how it's all happening inside the planet.
Right.
So like Second Thessalonians is like the big one that Christians use to prove the rapture, and the very first line of it is that the dead in Christ shall rise first, rise out of the earth. So that means that anyone who dies in Christ goes into the paradise that's in the earth. I found this fascinating when Michio Kaku came out and said that we have 11 dimensions. And then I matched it with Enoch, with the Book of Enoch, who says that there are 10 heavens. Well, if you add this dimension,
It's 11.
Yeah.
then
Makes
that
sense.
makes 11. Okay, so this is our dimension, right? The surface, and we're 3D and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
But inside the earth, there's like 10, 11, including us. There's 11 dimensions, which makes sense as to why all these things are happening inside the planet.
Right.
This civilization, and that's why I call it the alien presence, because they're not visiting from some other galaxy and coming here and all of a sudden landing and they're interested in us. They've been here all along.
Yeah.
They're evidenced in all the religions and the cultures and the myths, and they come out of the earth. So my sightings, the stuff that I've seen, the ships that I've seen come and go, I saw one come out of the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
Okay.
That was one of the experiences.
Yeah.
And it's like they come and go inside the earth. They come and go inside the oceans and the mountains. The planet is full of portals. So these portals is where they come and go. And Jerusalem is an ancient space portal. And that's one of the reasons why they're fighting over it. Okay? So and why does the end time prophecy end there? Because the Lord comes back and lands this phantasmagorical mothership, which is described in the book of Revelation as it has 12 gates, and each gate opens up, and it's all named after the 12 less tribes of Israel, because one tribe got cursed, so he's not included. Joseph had the double portion, so Joseph gave it to his sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, and they're involved. And the pearls, the sapphire floor. I mean, this is like, Star Trek space.
Right.
Yeah. It's wild.
Right. I bet they have a great cafeteria on
Yeah.
that big giant ship. I imagine it's great.
That is awesome. So we're start a little bit running out of time, but I want to make sure we're promoting your book. So you got book 4 coming out, you said?
6.
6
Um,
or
Actually, it's book one, fourth edition,
Fourth
okay.
edition. Okay,
All right.
which is all about who the aliens are. It's an A to Z, and it has like extra chapters added about um, the what's really behind the alien abductions. Okay, why they put you back after a few hours. So it's not a real true abduction. It's not like somebody kidnaps a child and they don't see them for years.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is this is not a true kidnapping. It's a temporary one, and there's a reason behind that. And one of the main reasons, besides the alien hybridization program and all these other things, is that implants. So they are implanting humans to try to change culture, society, religion. That's why they put you back.
Can you get
Does
that on Amazon? Your book, or is there? Or
It
you
will be available in all the channels after August 2nd.
second? Okay.
okay, good. Want to know where to find it. So when you're
Mhm.
abducted, well, we don't want to give away the plot. But talk about the whole thing, there won't be anything left. But, you know, so you have other but you besides the series, do you have another book? Did you author something else?
I have 5 books
Right.
that are available. So all the other books are all available on Amazon.
Okay.
Um, and so book 2 is Who is God, and I unpack the whole cast of characters in the
Oh,
Old Testament that we talked about. Book 3 is called Who are the Angels, and it's about the angelic war between the fallen angels and heaven's angels. And
right.
I just want to give you the math real quick because
Yeah,
something we can all relate to.
sure.
So 1/3 of heaven's angels rebelled, okay, but 2/3 did not. So that means that they are the good ETs. And every time they show up in the Old Testament, they show up as men. So they're not necessarily how the
What you would
Renaissance
think.
artists have
Right.
depicted them, and they've gotten into people's heads that they're like flying and with the wings. Not that they don't have the ability to fly, they do. They're interdimensional, they come and go. They can show up and then they can just disappear. And the scriptures say that they go up and down from earth to the courts of heaven. Okay, so
Okay.
they are the good ETs. So they outnumber the fallen ones 2 to 1. Okay, so I just want to I want to give people hope that we're not doomed here. We have help. So that the Who are the Angels? That's book 3, and then book 4 is Covenants, which is another. That's what we were talking about. It's my humble attempt to lance the boils of racism and anti-Semitism on Earth and how that's connected to alien disclosure. And in that book, I offer these university studies that were done several years ago on how different religions will respond to alien disclosure.
Right.
And I will say that Christianity is having a hard, they're the number one having the hardest time, and the reason for it is because they've rejected all these Jewish books, and the rest of the story is in these Jewish books that were rejected by the Church of Rome.
Yep.
So if you start to piece it all together, okay, and get rid of the anti-Semitism, get rid of the racism, go and just find the truth for whatever it's worth, you'll see. But Christians today say all aliens are demons. Not all.
The Pentagon says
Okay,
that.
all demons are aliens.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But not all aliens.
Our demons, right?
I'm getting a T-shirt.
Correct. Yeah.
Get that
Saturday.
That's awesome.
And then book 5 is all about Nibiru. So that's my attempt to try to help people to understand what's happening with the planet, with the sun, why we're seeing spaceships around the sun,
Right.
huge, gigantic spaceship, because this ancient Nemesis Nibiru system is intersecting with our solar system,
Right.
causing the sun to spew solar flares, coronal mass
Yep.
ejections. We had cracks in the magnetosphere last year,
Yeah.
which is why the Earth is warming, and they're putting all this space tech up there to retard the warming and
Right.
to change, to kind of push back their fighting climate change. So we have a confluence of things going on, and that's all in the fifth book. I have the patents of the solar simulator. There's all kinds of space tech up there that is affecting our weather patterns. But it's because it all started with the Reagan administration. They started the Star Wars system,
Yeah.
the SDI program, and they also knew about Nibiru, and that was part of an executive order to cover it up and to obfuscate it because they didn't want people to panic.
Right.
Very similar to the UFO disclosure.
Right.
And that's also part of the drip disclosure era that we're in.
Awesome.
Makes perfect. Yes, a lot of research you've done throughout the 30 years.
Yeah, 40. But...
Oh wow!
Who's counting?
I didn't want to push it out too far.
I'm in my 60s, it's okay. Postmenopausal.
Yeah.
Same.
Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot for coming on. We appreciate it. And Who's Who in the Cosmic Zoo?
Yep.
And a fourth edition of the first book coming out.
Yes. Coming out
August 2nd.
August 2nd. So everybody pick it up.
Yep.
on Amazon. Yes.
Definitely. I'm getting my copy.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Probe Podcast. We welcome comments, questions, or requests to you. alienprobepodcast@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook. Check out our website, alienprobe.net, Twitter and Instagram at alienprobepod. Like and subscribe on YouTube, Alien Probe Podcast. Thanks, Ella LeBain, for joining us today.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
And we will see you come on again soon. It was a pleasure talking to you. And watch the skies.
Pleasure. Yes.
Always.